Yep.
Good morning. July 14th, 2022, the regular board meeting held at the Magna Water District, 8885 West, 3500 South, General Office Building. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Here today we have with us is Clint Dilley, Nathan Bracken, Dallas Henline, Jeff White, Mick Sudbury, Danny Stewart, Leal Fitzgerald, Raymond Mondragon, and Trevor Andre. Will you guys all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to welcome the public and guests, and so we have some new employees today. Clint, I'd like to turn it over to you and have you introduce them to us.
Yeah, we have Raymond. Do you want to tell us about the two new employees on the water operations group?
We got two employees. We introduce is Cheo Brianna Jr. Am I pronouncing or did I kill it?
Well, I go by Eddie City Brianna Jr. They just call me Cheo. It's a lot easier.
You want to tell us something about yourself? And
Barry, I got three little girls, 12-year-old and 9-year-old, and soon to be 4-year-old. Work out. After I get off work, I like to work out, like sports. I appreciate the opportunity to work here.
We were excited to talk with Cheo when we were interviewing him. He's had a lot of experience with underground gas tanks and piping, and
Yes.
doing that all over the country, right? Or the west part of the country.
West side, yeah. I used to work for a company called PIS, Petroleum Installation Specialist. We set the tanks for Mavericks, the big gas stations, did all the underground piping, and then once they poured the concrete and stuff, we went back and put the pumps on, pipe down.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
again, then our new hire here is Travis McDonald. Want to kind of give us a little speech too?
Grew up here in Magna, parents grew up here in Magna. Used to work at Excel on the road here for about 15 years, and have 4 kids, and just wanted a better schedule, spend time with them, and kind of get back to my community a little bit here.
And your mom's Becky, right? Okay, me and Raymond.
Yeah.
So she just helped me out the other day at the post office, so.
Yeah, we try to do our part here somehow. So.
Well, glad to have you too.
Yeah, we were excited to have Travis. He had a long history with Hexel, so I know that was a tough decision to get him to come. Same with Cheo. He had been with his previous employer for over 10 years. So we think we got people. We hope this is a good fit, and you'll be here for 20 plus years. So.
Where does Cheo live? Do you live in West Valley or?
I live West Jordan.
West Shore.
Awesome.
Thanks.
And if you guys have any new ideas to bring to us, we're always welcome to hear them.
Yeah.
Yep. Now I like this part. Go back to work.
You enjoy this?
No, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, you could have said, hey, we want to learn how the board meetings work. Thanks. Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. Does anybody here, though, have a conflict of interest of anything on the agenda? Okay, see none. Todd, did you? Okay, I just thought you went like that, so okay.
I was just saying hi to Todd. I didn't.
Okay. Okay, since we see none and do none, let's approve the common consent items.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held June 28th, 2022.
Second time.
It's been motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to approve the expenses for June 5th to July 6th, 2022. The general expenses of $1,038,697.81. and the Zions bank bond payment for $85,782.19.
I'll second that.
It's been motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's go move on to the department report. We're gonna start with you, Clint.
Yeah, you've got your report in there. We're gonna talk about some of the staffing issues later in the agenda. If you had any questions or comments on that,
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any. On operations, one of the things that I know that, understand that the board's been asked a lot is how are we looking on our groundwater levels? And it's surprising that we're using less drinking water this year than we were even last year, even with all the growth. People are still conserving, and we used less last year than the year before. So we think that's a combination of getting people on secondary water, but mostly conservation, and our metering program, getting accurate meter readings, and getting them changed out has been successful so far. On the wells themselves, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Some are a little lower, some are a little higher.
Yeah.
So we've got, I would say overall, we're in similar position in groundwater levels to last year. But one thing I've asked the water operations team and Matt and Raymond to develop, and Trevor, if he could help assist, is more of a visual representation for the board. So you could look up and you could see the trend of the wells from year to year, when they're kicked on, when they're kicked off. And so it's always hard to look at a single data point in time and determine anything from it, right? We need year to year, we need that pattern to be able to get a good feel. And we have the data, but it's hard to digest. It's just points.
Visually see it.
And so we need a visual, and we think that would be helpful. So we're gonna work on that to develop something to bring back to the board, and then you could share that, with the public.
That
So
would be awesome.
Give you a better answer when somebody asks you a question. You'll know exactly.
You know, everybody asks all the time, when are you gonna stop the building? It's like, well, go to your legislators.
I think the hardest thing is when you put it on like an Excel spreadsheet. The number one thing is we get the same data points to put in, because it can skew the whole thing. We've had that in the past sometimes.
Yeah.
A data point's changed and, oh, well, we got this from here instead of. So if you guys just make sure where you pull the data points, then at least it'll give a representation.
Yeah, sure. That's a good comment. On the other thing I will highlight, we are planning, Dallas has put quite a bit of work together along with, we're getting to get with Matt and Raymond on a history of the power outages, the brownouts. We are to the point where we just can't live with the level of service that we're getting from Rocky Mountain Power. So we're generating a letter. We're gonna put together a formal letter and maybe a more formal, hey, we need some response. Even if we're on the hook for paying for some of that, it's gonna pay off, because those brownouts are damaging. The power outages that go longer than 8 to 12 hours get really tough to keep our standby generator storage topped off. So we're working on that. We're getting more storage, but we deal with power outages every couple weeks almost, it seems like, at the wastewater plant. It's just unacceptable level of service
Except
down there.
some of it's not their fault. We've had people crash into poles.
Sure,
and-
those are
And the
the
wind
ones-
blowing and arced them together and started fire, and, some of it's not their fault, but.
Sure, absolutely. I think it's just the setup down there. You have a way higher percentage than the rest of the community.
Well, the thing is, though, I noticed on the town page, Chip, the west side over here is always losing power constantly. So there's gotta be a reason why they're always, the west side of towns always seem to always have a power outage. So,
Yeah, if that's something we could team up with the township.
go ahead, Greg.
I was gonna say, the reason why you see that situation is because this is
I think that's a fair point. The problem is it goes way back, right? I mean, these issues, I'm sure you remember, these are long-term issues that
And
we
they
have
haven't
not.
upgraded down in that area for a long time.
So Clint, let me bring something
The whole
up.
part of town is all above ground on poles, so the trees kill that. That down there is above ground. Dominion just ran new power lines down 8,000 to serve them. But we're still on the ones that are hanging like almost to the ground, going to 72.
Right.
Yeah, but that wind's blowing them, arcing them off, just like that.
And we used to have them birds get on there. When they'd fly, the wires would, arc it and knock the power out. I don't know if they still do down there.
But I think it's on us to at least get a formal response.
So I agree.
And if they have costs that they say they'll do and we're responsible, I think we need to bring that to the board and, seriously consider it. We just had the brownout took out Haynes 7, and we've been out, it takes almost a year. It's devastating, especially, a blackout, we have standby generators. A brownout, it's tough to, It's tough to do.
Transfer switches are set, some of them are set, like Haynes is set for an hour. So if the power goes out, even if it's for 10 seconds, the generators won't come on for an hour. That is for hard startup, so they don't bang and pop lines and stuff, so. But some of them are instant, like your office up here, the transfer switches, the EDR is instant. So when they come on, they run for, even if it's a flash, they'll come on and they run for 25 minutes. You're burning fuel, not pumping any power, so.
there's a trade-off.
So Clint, one thing about this, it's just came up, just in the last 3 or 4 weeks. When power goes down, it's not a problem. So what we've done is we delay the startup. So when power comes on, we wait 5 minutes before we'll let any variable frequency come back on, because they get a surge of power when it comes back on. So we delay that, and I have not lost a well drive yet because of that, because we put a 5-minute delay in there, and it doesn't hurt anything, because if the power goes out,
Like I said, ours was set for an hour at Haynes. The EDR is 5 minutes, that's my instantaneous, so we're already on that 5-minute time frame.
I'm not talking about backup power, I'm talking about any device that loses power, it won't come back up, and it waits 5 minutes. Because when it first comes on, it was taking out our ballast and our lighting, and it's taking out our computers, so we put UPSs on those. But we have really saved a lot by letting that. And now they're telling me on some of the new split systems for air conditioning, there's so much electronics in there, now they're telling us to put surge suppressors on those. So we're going back through and we're gonna put surge suppressors on.
I think we need to review all of that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good exercise while we're doing this with Rocky Mountain, that we formalize that review of how we deal with those. And that's a good, Rocky Mountain power upgrades, but here's what we're doing as well,
Anything 5 years older and more than 2 ton, we're putting surge suppressors on them, and it's just wired in with the things so that when it goes back up, you don't get that surge, because the electronics are very expensive.
They are.
They're hard to get. It takes sometimes weeks to get the control cards, and you just can't, and it's getting worse for supply. So if we want to keep our reliability, I think we're just going to have to stay ahead of it.
I agree.
So.
All our newer systems are set up, so if we lose a line, it ain't gonna kill our motors or VFDs, it shuts it down, and that's what kicks the generator on. So all our newer stuff is set up like that, but the old, like Haynes, that's why it's only coming on waiting for an hour before it comes back on.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we appreciate that. Anything else that the board would like to highlight or discuss in here, I'm open to, those are the couple things I wanted to highlight.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I had a question.
Yeah.
Do we, have we got a handle, and have we got a handle on how much infiltration water we're getting now down through our low water areas? Remember, we sealed the pipes and everything, and I just wondered, do we have a feel for that now?
On all the lining, manhole lining projects and.
Yeah, and Raymond, you can help me out here if you get a second, but part of that project, you know, the lining the manholes, lining some of those main lines going down 8400 and stuff. We've done a lot to address some of those issues. I don't know if there's a percentage or a way to articulate how much of that's been repaired, but we've made a lot of good headway on that.
And then, like I say, we're doing all sealed, coated all the manholes down on the lower section, so that stopped a lot of infiltration as we were going through the.
I never did ever see a report. I thought we rented some equipment that was detecting how much flow we were getting in the manholes in sections, and I never seen a report on that.
We did do that.
Yeah, we done.
That was part of what we were trying to do there, was determine where we thought there was more of that coming.
Excess water.
Yep.
Yeah, infiltration.
I don't think it was infiltration, I think it was just the flows that we were trying to determine. Cause we put one on 8800, we put one on 8400 to determine the flows to pick up, and I think what that was for the development for Little Valley.
That was part of it. That was part of it. It was a multi-pronged, could we see anything? That was during the master planning process, and that is,
Okay,
that informed some of those decisions.
okay.
So on pipe sizes and where we route flows.
I just
That was the
wondered,
primary purpose.
I was trying to have them keep that equipment, rent it long enough so we could go from winter time like January, February, and keep it into May and kind of see if there was a big difference there.
There certainly would be value to doing a longer term
Yeah.
study.
Service areas putting on, you can tell the infiltration flow from the, like you say, May through.
We also have talked about how do we combine that potentially with the BOD, TSS program, where we're trying to narrow down if there's anything unusual happening from
Yeah.
industrial. So that could be a combined.
I'm always worried about how much water we're bringing. I mean, it could be a plus, you know, because I kind of worry about more concentrated flows going down to that sewer treatment.
We have definitely seen the flow concentrations go up, and we think a part of it is the lining, you know, which is, it's more efficient not to treat groundwater, but there's an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's cost.
okay, thanks.
Okay. Trevor, your turn.
Engineering, so, our zone 3 booster pump station, we've, you know, had significant delays in getting valves and our pumps back, from being built, being powder coated. Most of those delays are gone now. We had block delivered yesterday.
Yeah, block.
The pumps are being powder coated. Those will be delivered. Our valves are on site, headers. So everything's kind of coming together this week. So we expect probably next week and the following month, you'll see that transform quite a bit.
That's
Foundation.
good news from what we were heard last month.
Yeah, well, that's the pump station. And there is, so that's moving, good. Then there's the, you know, most recent water and sewer project. So we do have a new schedule on that, and we were really concerned that we wouldn't have enough time to complete those projects before winter hit, because there's asphalt involved and wouldn't be able to finish that up. But the new schedule puts them kind of starting each of those schedules in the month of August. Some of them in the first week, some in the second and third week, but moving through and completing them all before the first week in November.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
So
The good
it's
news. We were
looking
thinking,
good. I think the supply, you know, I don't know what they work, they're magic, or, you know, they were able to work with different suppliers and I think get some parts that they weren't expecting a little sooner. So that's good news for that as well. And then I just wanted to,
So you'll get that revised schedule out to the public?
Yep, so now that we have this, which we got this week, I'll put together a little posting for the website, and, you know, we can send out maybe a news, just email, let the public know where we're headed. Then this is just something that kind of popped up. I know it's been on certain people's minds, Lee Isles, and, you know, it has to do with our water metering, and transparency to the public of how much water they're using. So there's a grant with the state that information came up, and that kind of got us sparked talking about these different things. And right now, Lee Isle is working with MeterWorks to have kind of an AMI study. What that means is that would be a system that could essentially take all the meter data down to a 15-minute or hour level or whatever you want, and then you can use a program similar to this where you can share that information to the public. So they could log into their account on their computer, on their phone, and they can see real-time information or monthly water use in a little more detailed. And then,
So like if they had a water break, they would be able to pinpoint it?
and you can set up a notification that if my meter ever uses over X amount,
Yeah,
ping me.
that would flag, and
So I'm in St.
instead of waiting
George.
for months, and when they get two bills and they go, holy hell, it's $1,500.
Yeah, and obviously they have to be willing to, use what's available to them, but there could be a campaign for that.
I have some other districts that do think, they use a service called Ion Water, but I think it's similar to that, and it's been very helpful in that regard, because a lot of their overages were, I didn't know, broke, and I didn't find out until I got the bill.
We have that now.
Yeah, so
Are
the
you
state,
guys using Ion Water now?
No, we have people calling in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what we did is we built it into our ordinances, and so what would happen is people would call up and they'd ask for forgiveness, and we'd say, well, if you're on Ion Water, you'll get a fair discount. If you're not, then it's.
so motivation to sign
Yeah.
up and use it.
So they've just done a bunch of different things to incentivize. I mentioned that because we're going to be needing next week to go over the AR&Rs, but if this is something you want to do, I have seen it be effective elsewhere.
So just to clarify though, we don't have full AMI yet.
We do not, no. So this, in our current state, this system would be useful in that they could get more monthly readings. So our crews go out and read, that data gets uploaded and the customer can see it.
So there's a little delay.
Yeah, so the AMI would bring it to that next level where they can get that fine-grained detail and
What kind
notification.
of cost are we talking on AMI?
That's what the study will kind of tell us.
It'll tell us if we have to put towers up to ping all of our meters and where.
Just kind of wanted to update you on that. The state has a grant where they'll pay for, it's $50,000, and they want you to use something like this for 3 years, and then report back on, how it went and things like that. But we thought, maybe that is some way to get us going, with that state money and that grant, and just wanted to kind of.
Unless it's $1 million, I don't care about their 50,000.
Yeah, no. The program like this for our size, maybe 15,000 a year. So the grant would cover the majority of that cost.
Sometimes I worry about what data we have to give up of residents' data to somebody else. That's the only thing I worry about.
Yeah.
Unless they had their
valid
sign-on and
concerns.
password, they wouldn't be able to see others.
So they're unique.
Unless you-
They can only see their data
Right.
compared to an average in their neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you're supportive, we'll kind of keep just going down this hole and see what we find out and come back and.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add here that on the reuse open house, there were quite a few customers that were inquiring about whether or not we had this where they could get more real-time data that they could access. So I think the customers are aware of programs like this. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Raymond.
Okay, water production report.
Sorry,
You're fine.
did you want me to present that?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay, sorry.
Okay, water production report for June. Water production summary, Colony water production for May was 199.6 million gallons, or 612.73 acre feet. 23.84% decrease from 2021. Year-to-date production was 722.1 million gallons, or 2,216.3 acre feet. 11.87% decrease from 2021. We have purchased 398.09 acre feet from Jordan Valley as of June 22. Total number of call-outs for this month was 19. Excuse me. And one of the call-outs was 19 for the water side. Total hours paid was 103 of these hours. 21.1.5 hours was due to Western Mobile Park when they had a break and we had to isolate them. And we had to pay some overtime to use our standby trailer.
So now are we gonna,
But they'll reimburse us.
Yeah, we're billing
Okay.
them for the water plus the overtime, so minus that would, we're down a little ways, around 82 hours of overtime.
okay,
And that's the water production for June. Dallas?
Wastewater manager's report. Mr. Chairman, last month we talked about bringing a price to the board for a spare aeration unit from Aeration Unit Industries in the event that we lost one of our units. We've got that price included in the packet here. The total price on the request was $54,424. That gives us a full shelf unit, which would be a direct swap. It's also the upgraded unit, so it's the 2.0 version. It's about 15%, delivers about 15% more air. Included in that quote is what they call a mini parts repair kit, and that's their suggested wearable items that they recommend having on the shelf. So we've requested a mini repair kit for both of the models that we have. One for the spare unit that will be the upgraded model, and then one wearable repair kit for the existing models. So if the board likes that price, that would be our recommendation, that we move forward with a spare shelf unit.
I hate that price. Do we need all the stainless steel stuff? Cause it's above ground, it's not seeing, do we need stainless steel now?
It's just how they come. I don't know that we have an option to substitute.
Cause it's just drawing air above ground, I mean, it's just drawing ambient air, right?
It is above ground, it is exposed to the elements. It's, there's quite a bit of splashing.
Okay. Okay,
It's a pretty hazardous environment.
okay.
We talked and we wanted to see what the board's thoughts were. This is our short-term, immediate, we think this prevents
Downtime.
a permit violation
Oh,
if,
yes.
we think, if we were to have a power outage. How long did you start seeing problems?
It's about 48 hours, as long as we can be down with just one unit.
Okay.
So,
That's not very.
So a power outage isn't an issue necessarily per se, but a motor or something on the unit itself that we couldn't repair in that time frame. This would alleviate that concern, which is our most urgent. But then we talked about a midterm solution would be needing to find something that addresses the capacity
Can we,
issue. So,
who's gonna help us with the study on putting 6 more units or 8
well,
more?
I think that's what we need to determine
Right.
still. That would be the next step.
Okay.
right.
And that way, that's all the same, right?
Correct. Our recommendation for the next step would be to figure out how many pieces of additional equipment do we think we would need to be able to handle not only a unit going down, but to handle the existing organic strains.
The
So,
swells.
what we're proposing is that we do some investigating on our end, to see which types of units we would need to bring us back up to a little bit of a redundancy.
Have a little breathing room.
Yeah, we're not 100% sold that we need to stick with Aeration Industries.
Oh.
There's a couple other manufacturers that we want to look at before we just
Absolutely.
commit.
Absolutely.
But I think, you know, we'll gather some data and we'll look at some different equipment options, and then we can bring back a price. And that would help address more of a midterm solution.
Yeah.
And then part of that would include an organic strength capacity study for the plant. So that would deal with not just the aeration equipment, but the other parts of the plant and how these organic strengths and that increases affecting the rest of the plant as well.
Is there places in the ditch that are more strategic than others, do you know?
That's
Like the entry part or?
That's
the-
kind of one of the thoughts that we're discovering is based on the shape and the orientation of our basins. There's potentially some old pockets of sludge
Oh.
based on the radiuses and
Yeah,
some
the
of those long
turnaround.
runs.
Uh-huh.
So the idea behind some of these mobile units is we could place them where we want them, where they'd be the most efficient, so.
I like the idea you go for a couple other people and
Yeah.
you might see some advantages, that
Might
opens
have real well.
competition
Right.
and reliability too.
Right.
That's great.
Trev, did you have anything to add there? I think that was a lot to go over
Yeah,
quickly.
no, I
but-
think we'll budget and, you know, next year, like you said, we'll do a study, we'll kind of nail down exactly the need.
It's,
Will we get engineering involved, a consultant to help us with that?
There's potentially some engineering involved when it comes to hooking up multiple new units. There shouldn't be any engineering for the swap out of the shelf.
No.
But we'll learn all about that as we go, so we can just keep you updated on that.
Okay.
I've got just a couple other things here, Mr. Chairman, that I didn't have a chance to cover last month that I think are they're big ticket items that I wanted to point out. We did order the fuel storage tank for the standby generators down there. It's a 2,000 gallon fuel tank that had a $30,000 price tag. And then we've scheduled a Huber screw press service, which is about a 8-year service. It's a major overhaul of the equipment. It's recommended that we do it every 8 years. The equipment was put online in 2006. We had this service completed in 2014, and it's showing signs that it needs to be done again. That was budgeted for, and that was a price of about $29,900. So if you guys saw those in the packet, I just wanted to explain those a
Okay.
little bit so you knew what they were. And then the last item, Mr. Chairman, I've got, I'd like to bring a clarifier change order next month. The control panels that operate the new drive units, those came from the factory with a designated amount of SCADA control. And we operate a little more SCADA control than what the factory sends them out with. So we're looking at about $4,800 for some electrical components. So that way the new controllers can operate all of our SCADA signal.
Can communicate with them.
Right. So I'd just like to bring that to the next month's meeting and we can get that approved.
Okay. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let's move on to the clerk.
Mr. Chair, before we do that, did we need a motion on the 54?
I think that's one of the things we were gonna talk about. Thank you for reminding me. We wanted to make sure the board was supportive, but we would bring this back to the board for formal approval next month if you felt good
Yeah,
about it.
and that gives you a chance to go out and look and see for other bids, right? For,
Well, this unit, no. I
Okay.
guess this unit would be not bid as an equal since it's a replacement of the existing unit. The future project, the bigger project would.
okay.
Yes, yes,
So you bring back next month?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, thank
Go
you. I wanted to bring to you this document management software and explain that out of the boxes that were shredded at the wastewater treatment plant, and out of the boxes that are filled with paper downstairs, 80% of it comes from Cassell, our county. Cassell has a document management program that we can get for $5,000 implementation. and then an extra 500 in our service to handle these documents. Therefore, we wouldn't have those boxes. 80% of what we destroyed and have downstairs is from here.
Okay,
So that would take care of a lot of space, a lot of room. I also,
I like that.
What do we use now?
sorry,
What do we use now? Cassell?
they're in boxes. Oh, our accounting software is Cassell,
Oh, okay.
so it integrates with that.
So this is this would
It's a module.
help us develop the electronic management
Yes.
system beyond just our Windows filing. This is geared towards all the specific types of documents that we
Yes.
have, that we have to keep, right? But we don't need to keep them physically
In
down in
paper.
the paper.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
So this has been I know that the board has expressed frustration that, our conversion to the electronic filing, we've been talking for a lot of years. We think we've made a lot of progress, but this seems to be the right fit. Leal's had the time to research and figure out what exactly is gonna work, and this is what you've come back with, right?
This module will also be compatible with our project files.
Okay.
Not like the project pipeline project, but I mean like company correspondence, correspondence with our attorney, correspondence with the city. Those types of documents can be handled in this module also.
Okay.
And what makes it better than just a Windows Explorer,
This module gives it a searchable type of function that a File Explorer you can search, but this will, I'm not sure exactly how programming, but it gives it a broader ability to search the documents to find what you're looking for.
So Leah, walk us through, once we get the module, then how do we go to getting the stuff in the boxes on digital? Is it a labor intensive?
Yes, and I was gonna address that. Last month when we met, Marie Owens was here from the state, now she's with AE2S. She came up to me and said, hey, the state used this vendor to scan all their documents. So I got a hold of them, and we're in the process of evaluating what we have so they can give us an estimate to get all that history scanned.
That would be great.
It would be.
So it's in the works.
Is that the only competitor they've
Really
got?
excited about it. I've checked with that member, the UCI, the Utah Correctional, the confidentiality is a problem with that. We have had Alpha Graphics look at the information also. I need to get in touch with them. As far as the procurement process, we still need to reach out to one more, but it's in the works. And right now, we currently do all of the developments, the subdivisions that come in, that's already electronically done in File Explorer. We've been doing that for 2, 3, 4, 5 years now.
We were talking, joking, when Kim Bailey was in that office, one of the whole lengths of his wall shelving was all of those project files, and it was only for like 5 to 6 years worth.
Oh my heck.
It's a massive amount of documentation, and we're feeling really good that we're to a point where all that is electronic. Even all the planning, all the
100%
plans, and
that's electronic.
so we have made some progress. I know that it's frustrating that we're not there yet for the board that's been pushing for this for a lot of years, but we've made some good progress.
I think it's good.
So this module will, as soon as it's implemented, it will take us from that point forward. And then to get the history, and we'll have to go
So
to this other.
we've got to spend the $5,000, and then there's some training in here, did I see?
Yeah, it just is training, so everybody will be familiar on how to store the documents, how to search, how to create the cabinets.
How about the company you're talking to right now? Are they familiar with the program, Cassell?
I talked to them about it, and they were going to do some legwork and get a hold of Cassell to make sure that what they scan will move into that.
That would be a big
So-
plus if they're familiar with that software. That's a big plus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, I mean, just an update, it's moving forward.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the item H, the project award agreement. A discussion of possible motion to projects to award an agreement. Zone 3, who wants to take these?
Mr. Chairman, that'll be Trevor.
Okay,
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. So our first item there is the Zone 3 Secondary Water Booster Pump Station and Culinary Water Pump Station Upgrade. It's a change order number 2, in increasing the price by $30,371. This is strictly a fuel surcharge. This has to do with moving the material, the dirt pile.
okay.
And this is to take care of the price of diesel fuel.
The only thing is, I don't agree with that, because they listed as a labor and material charge. There should be no labor on that whatsoever.
So, let's see.
The truck burns the same amount of fuel, it's just an increase. Has anybody ran a number on this to see really what, I mean, the surcharge really should be just strictly the price of fuel,
Not the labor.
right?
So it is, I mean, they're essentially saying it went up $2. It went up more than $2 between March and when they finished. There is a 10% overhead that they're allowed to add on to
Sure.
that.
Sure, but not labor.
No, there's not labor. It's based on truck hours and the increased cost. in
Where are you reading the labor?
It's
Right.
on the final,
I
on the
think
final
that's a
page.
form.
Yeah, it's
Justification.
verbiage
says
in there,
labor
but it's
materials.
not.
It's not.
That's a standard.
That's incorrect.
Okay,
So have they showed you something that they're gonna use 15,000 gallons of fuel on the project?
So they base it on hours worked,
Okay,
and that's kind of the way the state has recommended, I think, right? And has written up kind of guidance, yeah, on how to deal with fuel surcharge. So the yeah. I think where you're seeing the material, labor and material is on page 2 of the change order.
yes,
Yeah, so that could easily be changed and should be just
okay.
fuel.
That's standard language, I think, that gets added that we didn't catch.
Yeah,
Good catch. on that. We need to correct that.
On the front page, it does say specifically trucking fuel.
yeah, on
Okay.
page 1 of that. So from Bar W Industries, you know, they kind of explain a little bit more how that is calculated, but essentially it just comes down to the number of hours, 1,380.5, $2 increase in fuel over those hours worked, and then that gets you to a dollar amount.
that's kinda crazy. I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the state code, it doesn't actually do it by truck hours, they do it by, every, I think, 25 cents. If gas prices go up, they're allowed to increase
Sure.
their price for fuel, and when I calculated it that way, their number came in less than what they.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, I can go with that.
Oh, no, stop. He's with Epic.
Because that does seem more reasonable with use hours, machinery hours or truck hours, yeah. So, okay.
Thank you.
So based on the price of fuel going up and, you know, that being an unknown, you know, I do recommend
Should we do these together or?
approving.
Let me ask legal counsel, can we do these together, Nathan? Or do we have to do them individual? It doesn't matter, I
I
guess?
think it matters, but I think it's usually cleaner to do them
Individual.
separately, just
Okay.
because if there's discussion or questions.
Okay.
I mean, you guys may be fine with the 30,000, but when we get to the 9,000, we
Okay,
may have.
okay.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Zone 3 Secondary Water Booster Pump Station and Culinary Water Pump Station Upgrade Project, change order number 2, increased price of $30,371, based on fuel charge.
I'll second that.
In motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's the still tank painting.
All right, so the steel tank painting, change order number 3, This increases the price by $9,023.68. This is mainly around the clarifier number 2. They had mobilized out, and then we had some, if I remember right, some concerns that we needed all 3 clarifiers at that time. It was approaching winter, and that's a little bit of a concern for us based on past winter.
Yeah.
We didn't want to have down to 2 clarifiers through that period. So we pulled them back, but they had already mobilized and set up scaffolding. And then they had to come back this spring and remobilize and reset up that
That's a
scaffolding.
lot of work.
So this cost is directly related to that and just for those things, mobilization and scaffolding, takedown and setup.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to propose 2021 steel tank painting and repair change order number 3 to increasing the contract price by $9,023.68 based on remobilization.
Second that.
It's been motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to administration. Discuss the policy motion for administration items for human resource manager position.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Last month, we presented the board with a draft job description and organization chart of a human resource manager. The feedback from the board, if I could summarize it, was that there were so many job duties that it would overwhelm anybody and maybe prevent them from applying. So what we've done is take our best to consolidate and cut that down. And then we've listed an essential duties, which is more traditional HR functions, and then secondary duties and responsibilities so that they understand. A lot of these functions are going to be in coordination with the other management team.
Right.
So they won't be out there on an island all alone. And they will understand what's priority and what's secondary. So we thought if the board liked this approach,
I think I was kind of looking at it, and I'm pretty impressed with it.
Looks like it nails everything down.
It seems like it nails everything that what we want it to do.
okay.
So would we approve that today?
If the board wanted to, we have an item there that could be approved to move forward with the next step, which would be, we would figure out advertising and posting of it.
So we have to post it in-house first.
We would go through
Okay,
that process.
okay.
Yep.
So you know what? As I looked at this, I don't know if you guys looked at it really well, but I'm pretty impressed with it, and I feel like that we as the board should move forward on this and approve this today. But like I said, that's just me. So we can get going on it.
So the only job requirements for posting it, it says these are right here, proven experience, relevant human resources. And at least 4 years of experience.
On the job, degree in human resources or related.
What does
field.
it take to get a degree for human resources?
I think that's a 4-year program.
Bachelor's,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's
bachelor's
bachelor's
program.
degree.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we changed, we recognized, like the board indicated, finding somebody that had all of this additional
Yeah.
experience might be challenging. So we put that as a, we just said the ideal candidate would also have some experience, exposure to emergency response, QA, QC, public relations, and customer engagements programs, but it's not a requirement.
Right. But that would be helpful. And like you say, as you know, not everybody's gonna have everything we want.
No.
But the majority,
It's the nature of being a small district.
Right.
We can't justify just human resources alone, although there are reasons to argue that we can, but we feel like we need to, there's a lot of areas that we could utilize this person that we've obviously
well,
identified.
like you say, public relations too, dealing with the public and the community and And so this salary as based 80 to 110, is that what I mean,
So, Wasatch Front Regional Council recently went through this process. They had a range of from 85 to 120. Granger Hunter went through this process last year, or a year and a half ago, I believe. And their range, if I remember right, was a little lower end. So it was like 80 to 100.
okay,
So we kind of went 80 to 110.
okay,
We've looked at salary.com. They're within this range for average, those salary estimators. So, we think this is a good range if the
Yeah,
board's
it's good.
supportive.
I think.
okay. So where could we approve this?
Right here.
I think
Right,
we've got
okay,
the-
right here.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, here we go. Okay, we can approve this,
So,
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept this final draft of job description, duties and organization chart for the human resource manager position.
I'll second that.
Been motion, second, all in favor?
Aye. Okay, our budget here.
Aye.
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 Okay, let's move on to the 23 budget hearing date and time.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, this is an item we talked about last month.
Right,
However, the holiday, we weren't,
For Veterans
the
Day.
Veterans Day holiday
On the 11th.
falls on our Thursday.
Yeah, the 11th.
So the date, we talked with the county and that can still be changed.
can we move it to the
As
10th?
long as we could move that date.
Wednesday, the 10th?
We scheduled it for November 10th, thinking that that was our board meeting anyway.
Yeah.
But the
Veterans Day is
10th is the holiday for Magna Water Veterans Day. The board meeting was actually scheduled for the 17th originally. It's just, I had a calendar item in there that made me believe it was on
So
the 10th.
is the
Anyway,
is the
so the
10th,
board meeting's the 17th.
so is the 10th the Wednesday?
10th is Thursday.
Okay, so could we move it to the 9th?
Can you do it the 17th? The 17th is the board meeting.
Yeah,
It's been moved to the third week in November because of that holiday.
I hate moving it though to the third week, but
I do too.
I hate the third week.
I do.
We can change them both to whatever.
Yeah,
you
we
want.
can change that board meeting date. And this is a discussion for future. We now know clearly the third week doesn't work. So in any future, we will look and see it all possible if we can move
Yes.
that to the day before if it's.
So if
But
you want-
sometimes it had been driven by conference attendance.
And holidays.
If our holiday is the 10th, I think we ought to do it the 9th then.
Well,
We could do it. the
see, and
9th.
night's a conflict for me with Jordan Valley Water, but you know what, I'm
Wednesday.
okay, this is my number one priority anyhow, so I'm okay with that.
That would be Wednesday.
Wednesday,
The 17th is clear of the holiday, which is the next week isn't it, for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, and this is the board's meeting, and we gotta pick, you
Right.
gotta pick a date that works for you.
I'm okay with the 9th. What are you saying?
I'm fine, whatever you
What do
guys want to
Wednesday
do.
the 9th?
I'm okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd rather do it the 9th than move it to the 17th.
right,
But it's up to you guys.
so we're gonna do it we're gonna do the hearing at 6 o'clock, right?
Yes.
Okay,
November 9th at 6 PM. And then I will have to advertise the change of the board meeting,
so we're gonna do the
We'll
board
just
meeting
have
at
to
what,
decide.
4 o'clock or 5? Well, it just depends on what we have on the
yeah,
agenda.
we can decide later.
Okay,
We'll kind of
The
say
board
5, huh?
Yeah.
5?
But the budget hearing will put November 9th at 6 PM and then anticipate the change in the board meeting. We just don't know what time yet.
okay, thank you.
So we might need a motion.
Yeah, we'll motion, right?
I gotta change that. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to approve the 2023 budget hearing date of November the 9th at 6 PM.
Second that.
Been motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item J, training and safety discussion. Follow the training safety.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what we wanted to do was report back to the board on the conference attendance that myself, Bob, our mechanic, and Raymond, our water operations manager, attended. We all felt like it was worthwhile for us, and so I asked everyone, I think part of this is that the board needs to hear from the staff and the attendees whether or not they thought it was worthwhile, what did they gain from it. And so we've each picked one item that we thought was really important and we thought we could incorporate. What did we learn? This first one is one that I was really excited about. We've had discussions in the past about how do we transition to preventative maintenance. One of the big things that we've been discussing and on the board's mind has been vibration, noise, looking at oil sampling. This is a solution that I think could potentially work for us. And I wanted to, if I could, just play this short video that kind of describes it probably better than I could. Trevor, would you?
This is Dan. Dan is responsible for reliability and maintenance at his plant. For predictive maintenance, Dan's team collects data every month with a portable system where they walk machine to machine and manually collect the vibration data. Like many, Dan is not completely satisfied with his portable program for a few reasons. Number one, monthly collection isn't frequent enough. He wants daily monitoring. Number two, sometimes his team calls in sick and can't collect data, affecting his compliance. Number three, sometimes the machines aren't running when his team goes around to collect the data. Number four, some machines are inaccessible for portable collection. Number five, it's dangerous having his team walking around the plant all the time collecting data. Dan has run trials with many of the new wireless sensors on the market, but the tests have failed. One test failed because wireless sensors were very low resolution and weren't giving much advance warning for machine failure. Another test failed because the wireless sensor had trouble staying connected to the network. Then, Dan found the most advanced wireless sensor on the market, the Excel 310 Vibration Plus Temperature Sensor from Symphony Industrial AI. With a sample rate up to 26.7 kilohertz, the resolution was over 10 times what he had previously tested, giving him weeks to months of advance warning, unlike before when he was only getting hours or days of advance warning with low-resolution sensors. He also learned that the Excel 310 uses a mesh network to connect, which is much more reliable than Wi-Fi or Bluetooth sensors and also have much longer range. He loved that the mesh network was self-healing and could fix connection issues by itself. Dan also found out that Symphony Industrial AI has the largest machine condition database in the world that provides fully automated diagnostics for their AI software. With over 6,000 diagnostic rules that cover over 1,200 unique fault modes, he can sleep easy knowing that his machines are protected from failure by the most advanced software on the market. One of the best parts to Symphony Industrial AI is that they can grow with Dan as his predictive maintenance program matures. In the future, he can add continuous monitoring online technology as well as asset performance management software to bring in process data so he can understand the health of his machines better. Dan's corporate office loves Symphony's low monthly cost structure as well. Be like Dan and implement the most advanced wireless sensor and diagnostic software available on the market today.
So I went to this presentation. I didn't see this video. It was a human giving the presentation, and from what I understand, they got their background started in working on aircraft carriers for the Navy, and they needed to make sure that all the equipment that they were working on these aircraft carriers were reliable, and they were doing preventative maintenance, and they needed to know how long to failure, so that when they got back, they could order the parts and make sure by the time the ship docked, they had them ready, they could make the change out and get them back. They just had such a short window. I went up after and I said, well, you've talked a lot about, your background. Do you guys have these in water treatment and pumps? And he said, yes, we've evolved from what we did back then, which we still do. Then we went to industrial plants, and now we're cost effective enough, and we can provide these sensors at a reasonable enough price that it makes sense for municipalities. And so, you know, obviously talking with Bob on how we want to transition to more of a preventative model, it either takes a lot of labor. You have to go around and check this equipment with either by hand or sound or by a portable unit. But again, that's if it's running, you get that data, and it's one data point in time, right? We talked about what makes sense is long-term trends, and this month to that month, hour to hour, day to day, whatever we think we need. But having these units on all of our critical pieces of equipment could make sense. And so we were wondering if the board was supportive in moving forward with this idea, getting the guy out to come look at our system, give us a quote, or if you think that there's any concerns. And I wanted to open.
I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
I just was on the phone with a guy that calibrates all my equipment, and I asked him, I said, so what's going on in this world? Because a lot of stuff has changed. And he said,
Yeah.
we had people stopping at about 2005. People stopped doing monitoring. They ran to failure. And I was just on this company in New York that does my calibration, and I said, Andrew, the guy that I originally worked with, Tom, has retired. I said, Andrew, so what's going on? And he came from Praxair, from the oxygen industry, and so they monitor a lot of things. So how we could start is by, you write down all your equipment, number one, that you've had bearing failures on. Now, the equipment would allow you to know if a motor got installed correctly, if it has a soft foot, which is creating a failure, a premature failure. But if we take the time to write down your critical piece of equipment, but he told me, he said, it's now getting to the point it's gonna come back. Well, some of the equipment that I've had, it's been upgraded, but he said the old equipment is absolutely as good, and they still support that equipment. They'll calibrate it. I have alignment equipment, electronic alignment equipment, and vibration and oil analysis. The oil analysis, you can find that people that are supplying, now in our case, if we're buying from Cruise, they don't do that. But there are some companies that you buy the oil and they'll sample for free. So we just need to train our people how to pull an oil sample on a gearbox, and then we can send it in. And then that will give you a track record on a spreadsheet of what's happening there. If more copper showing up or bearing components, any kind of metal is showing up in there, it will give you that. So that was offered free, so our oil lab became obsolete when that happened. On the vibration, you've got stationary or online equipment that goes into a central system, or you've got where a guy walks around. He says for them, and I just talked to him 2 days ago, and he said for them, hundreds of thousands of dollars to put stationary equipment on. He said you can pay a guy to walk around and take the data on your critical equipment. So it all based on you guys determine what is your critical equipment. Like the fans out on the ditch. You can walk out and take some data on there, just a couple data points, and it'll tell you what the whole machine's doing. So it's kind of up to you guys. You start the thing, make an outline of what your critical equipment is, and what things that you're a little worried about as far as bearings going out or a motor going out. And then let's look at it that way. And I would like to maybe use those guys to make a recommendation to you. I don't like to go with a company that's trying to sell you something.
Sure, I think that's the obviously the big thing we have to sort through is, okay, who else is out there and what do they do and how does it compare? But I think that the exciting thing about this was the biggest thing I thought was neat was that it can give you a much longer time window. With the resolutions that they were pulling up and showing, you can start picking this stuff up a lot more, a lot sooner.
Yeah.
You can trend it to where you
Right.
can see a brand new motor 16 years down the road with that same motor and see what it's doing.
Yeah.
Once you put it on. Our equipment,
Yeah, it's
Oil samples stuff is great, but with us maintaining it like we do, I don't see a need for it because we got motors down at the EDR plant with 40,000 hours on them. Same with the gearboxes, over 40,000 hours.
Well, I think those gearboxes that we just bought, even though you're changing oil, I think we need to pull oil samples. It's a lot cheaper. I mean, I paid $40,000 for my oil analysis.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you can send it over. We've got a couple people. I was sending stuff to Caterpillar, but they're more of an engine type thing. But there are some companies we can send your gearbox oil to, and they'll give you the reports back, and you can trend it that way. So
The gearboxes, we use a high grade oil, synthetic oil, which was recommended by the manufacturer. And I follow their intervals, oil change intervals, with how many hours they have on by the dot. And we haven't had any failures with any of our gearboxes.
well, we can't afford a failure. So what you do is you just take your sample, you send it to a company, they'll analyze it. So every time you take that out, if there's a minute amount of copper or anything showing up, I don't care if it's synthetic or not.
Well, the coppers, if it hits copper, you're SOL. Because
Bob, I'm just using that as an example.
First, but I am just saying, the only one I take oil samples on is our main water producing air compressor. If we don't have the air compressor, we don't produce water at the EDR plant. I do an oil analysis on that, and it's relatively new, but it's got 12,000 hours on it already. So, well, over 12,000 hours. But in that period of time, every time I send out and out, it's $25 to do an oil sample on, and I'll get back, they'll send me a thing back with everything on it that they picked up, and most of the time it's zinc, which is the top coating of the bearing. And it has 1% in that oil sample.
Yeah.
A million of a percent,
Yeah,
I should say.
I think that,
So the oil sample tells you on a longevity of it, but I've been around equipment for 35 years, and with the coming from the roadside to this was a big change. We never did oil samples on engines, differentials, transmissions, and they would run 750,000 miles before. And it's all due to maintenance on how you maintain it. If you let it go forever without changing oil, you're not gonna have major issues. If you maintain it on a yearly basis, like they recommend, on hours, you ain't gonna have it.
I think the question that we've been posed, which I think is a fair question, is does that oil or gearbox sampling, could we have been aware sooner? You know, that's the question. And I think there's some.
When we pull a motor, when we pull these pumps this year, because we got to, it's time. We gotta start pulling one by one to do them. So we have to pull the pump, we have to pull the gearbox, and then we have to pull the motor. Because they all have to come out to be rebuilt or upgraded. Because a lot of the gearboxes that are at the EDR plant, they've been updated, and usually you can't get parts. Kind of like your chlorine injector gearbox that I'm working on right now. You can't get parts from them, so you either have to make them or you buy a new gearbox.
Yeah.
So, and most of the time with C.H. Spencer, because that's where they came from, they have a lot of that stuff on hand. I mean, they're really good about having their parts on hand. So,
Yeah.
kind of like the mechanical seals, the same thing. So when you pull all that out, you have to send the mechanical seals out, either to get reman or you have to buy new ones, and they're like $5,000.
Yeah.
2,500 to $5,000.
I think I appreciate Bob coming and giving his thoughts, as the one that, you know, does a lot of our maintenance on our equipment, right? I mean, we put a lot on Bob. He tries to, Bob is a unique individual at this district. As I've gotten to know more, I've learned more about what Bob does. He's our auto mechanic, diesel mechanic. He does a lot of the well and pump and gearbox maintenance, does the standby generators. He also is our secondary water system operator, so to speak. Bob has always started and filled the secondary water pump station, drained the secondary water station, and prepared the facilities. So I think that, you know, the board has communicated to us, we need to, it's frustrating for them when they have to be presented with a big ticket item and we didn't give them much warning, right? Because the impacts of being out with a gearbox is big time to our process. And so
It's like the sewer plant, the clarifiers.
Yep,
Them
exactly.
heads needed to be replaced probably 15 years ago.
and that's what I communicated. Hey, we've done a great job running these and making them last longer than they should have.
They're 35 years old, and the guy that came out and was looking at them and goes, holy cow, I can't believe these are still running.
Right, but
He was amazed that they were still running. And that's just due to our maintenance.
but it's a fair question that we need some sort, if it's the oil sample, if it's the vibration analysis, we need something more of a systematic process to make decisions, right? And you've agreed on that.
The vibration stuff would be incredible, more so than the oil sample.
In your opinion,
In my
that's how
opinion,
you're.
Because that would give you instantaneous knowledge of something, a bearing going out.
Sure.
Or your spiders going out on your shaft, or your pump head failing.
Yeah.
More so than a bearing up there that the oil is, you have an oil level, you can have a sight glass with the oil in it, and you can see the oil, and you can tell if it's got metal in it, you can tell if there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Because when them motors, they're spinning at 60 hertz, anywhere from 45, the lowest they can go is 32 hertz, up to 60 hertz. And when they go in that range, there's so much difference in vibration. There's motors at like 42 hertz. There's motors at like 55 hertz. And you'll get a vibration on that so much. And that vibration bill, this little program here, would tell you a whole bunch where you can run your motors to a certain hertz and have them last longer.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know that's all I wanted to
Did we get a
communicate,
bid
but
from
I think
West Tech on those backup clarifier gearboxes that were, in the quote, it said they would give us an estimate for
Dallas, I don't know that I've seen that.
rebuilding the clarifier. That was part of the deal for that money we spent for the new ones. They were to give you a bid for the old gearboxes.
Right. One of the old gearboxes has been uninstalled, the other one's still in service, so I think we'll start to get some of that information back as the project wraps up.
Okay. Because
But yeah, I think we wanted to report back that we understand the board's concern there, and we're coming up with whatever that ends up being, or it may be multi-pronged. You know, we've been looking for solutions, and we'll continue to do that.
reliability is good.
Yeah. We appreciate the support that the board's given us on that effort. It either takes more labor or it takes more equipment, right? It's some combination that we need to find and report back some more options. So that's what
Yeah,
we'll do.
and then gearboxes for the clarifiers, you only have a 3/8 bronze bushing originally. So when them are turning, it's turning on this bronze bushing, and they're designed to wear out. So gradually, over 30
Chairman, I've just got one more thing I'd like to add, if I may. With all the stuff that's going on at the sewer plant right now, I'd like to recognize Bob Bapp for his extra service that he's done. He's been a big part of training the new guys with our maintenance and service intervals. So we couldn't do it without him, and he goes above and beyond to help us, and he's been a big part of our training and everything. So thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've spent quite a bit of time on that. Anything else that stood out to you guys?
At the conference?
Yeah, I mean, there were quite a few things, but
Yeah, I was kinda interested in the sampling. I did a class on sampling and got a lot out of it. Then, again, another class on, lead and copper, kind of more or less looking to see what all the other cities and how they're preparing for it, which I got a lot of knowledge in it, and I think it was beneficial going and seeing all the vendors and meeting with people and talking with other districts and finding out, listening to their problems, and which kind of pretty much like our problems and what their solutions, what they come up with. But I think it was very beneficial going to this conference.
Okay, thank you.
I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot from this conference. It was well benefit to us. I've learned a lot of things that we're in the Stone Age on a lot of things, and a lot of things we're ahead of the game. The classes that I took was all the reuse. I took 3 reuse, 2 maintenance, and the maintenance was kind of broken up into lead copper, and it was dealing with the lead copper in Boston, and they kept their records from 250 years ago, pretty much. They had records of what pipe they had in the ground, they had records of where it was at, different piping was in different locations, and they could go back, they went back and found 111 units that had the lead in it still, and they were figuring 500, but out of the 500 they checked, there was 111, and they based off of all the new construction, so if somebody bought it and remodeled it, they had to change it. It was pretty impressive. The meters, they could go back and look at time of day they were using water, so if they were watering their lawn at night, they could go back and see how much water they used at nighttime, because you're not doing your laundry at night. It was based off of how much water you were using at night or during the day. It was really incredible to learn so much of this. The reuse also, there's these Kubota filters that they were using for 10 years in California, and they never had to change them.
that's
That's pretty impressive, I think.
I think that hits on one of the things. The reason the national conferences are different than the local ones is we get this preview of what's coming our way.
Yes, exactly.
California has a lot of experience with reuse. Some things have worked, some things haven't. When we go and we hear what's happening over there, we have a much better understanding of what's coming our way, what to look for. Because not a lot of people in Utah are doing reuse yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as common.
They don't have the equipment. They don't never been set
Another
up for it.
concept that's happening that's coming our way is Denver has this program called One Water. And they are working with a coalition of agencies from Denver City to Denver Planning, Denver Water, the Water Reclamation Facility, the Stormwater Group, the on-site wastewater groups, all these groups that have some part in the water process, the planning and zoning development groups, they put the coalition together to where when they bring a new project, if anybody wants to do a project, they bring it to this group and they make sure it makes sense as a holistic approach to the water. And some group may chip in, oh, hey, if you tweak this a little bit, it benefits us. We'll chip in some funds. And they've had a lot of success in making everybody be thinking about the full water cycle. I thought that was interesting, and I think that's coming our way too. So, wanted to report back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to make a motion to close?
I'd like to, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to meet immediately in closed session to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical and mental health of an individual pending or reasonable imminent litigation, and the purchase, exchange, and lease of real property, including any form of water right or water share pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-204 through 205.
I'll second that.
In motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
11:25.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate you coming.
Okay, we need a motion to close the close and open the open.
Mr. Chairman, it is 11:42. I'd like to make a motion to go from closed to open the open, reopen the open.
Second that.
In motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there's an item that, just wanted to discuss the next board meeting. Is that something we can do, or
Yeah.
is that,
As long as we're not taking any action on it.
Yeah, you can discuss it.
let's discuss the next board meeting date to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Make sure I look at the, okay, so I have it as August 11th.
Is that from the schedule, the official schedule?
That's from the official schedule.
What is
It's the second Thursday of August.
Second Thursday, August
the 11th?
Yeah.
at 10 a.m.
August 11th.
We just need to get that as a standing item on there. We're gonna get used to that.
Okay.
I didn't catch that. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything they want to bring to the board or anything, discussion on anything? See none, if someone wants to make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the board meeting.
I'll second that.
In motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Now,
Thank you.
you guys start talking about reliability, now you're talking my thing.
Yes.